Welcome to Piano Think. I'd like to tell my students that I've already made, personally, all the mistakes possible in piano playing, and I'm sure I'm going to make more. And this has been helpful for me as a teacher because I've also been able to overcome some of those mistakes. And I also see some of the same issues that I struggled with as a student in my own students. It's universal. So remember this when you're having a hard time with any passage. There's probably a good reason for it, and almost I could guarantee you at that very moment, there's probably someone else on the planet practicing that same passage, having the exact same struggles as you. Let's look at a passage in a Mozart sonata that I've seen students struggle with. I was recently teaching this section, and it made me think about trill playing and the common problems in trill playing and really good ways to solve some of those problems. So this is from Mozart 570, right towards the end of the exposition. And this is a standard kind of trill problem. One hand is trilling very fast, usually the right hand, and the left hand is playing a 16th note Alberti bass. It sounds like this. Now, that is not an easy passage for a few reasons, but let me just maybe redirect your thinking about a passage like this if you're struggling with this, and if you haven't, you will, and if you already have, this is very natural. Let's talk about the first thing that we as pianists really need to think about when we're playing a passage like this. And I highly recommend that what you don't do is think about the right hand. The right hand is very tempting to think about because it's got all these notes, you're worried about clarity and so on and all that brilliance. But the problem is that what's holding the pulse together is not the right hand, it's the left hand. So the results of that problem often sound like this. It gets slower and slower and slower, and it starts to sink. I think the origin for that problem sometimes is that a student will practice very slowly, and they will mathematically lay out their trill, so they're going 2 notes for every note in the, so 1 like this. The problem is, and it works great when you're playing really slow like that, the problem is when you go fast, you won't actually be able to trill that fast unless you slow down. But the solution, again, think about that left hand pulse. Sometimes I've even had a student practice their trill by doing this. Just to feel that common pulse. I don't care what they do in the right hand, as long as they keep that pulse consistent. Okay, next problem and solution. I so remember as a student getting to the end of a measure like this and amputating the end of the left hand at the end of the measure. So this measure has 3 counts, and playing something like 2 and 2/3 counts basically. And it sounds like this when you do it wrong. And not really playing the last notes of the left hand. This is very common. The problem is because that students are trying to, us as pianists, are trying to move our hand position very quickly over to here, and because it feels like a difficult transition, they tend to, what do you think? They tend to rush or slow down? No, it's a very common tendency as pianists to rush a passage like that. So make sure that you are really hearing that last note, in this case, the B flat. This leads right into the third problem and really solution, and that is, this is a really important cadence. Mozart likes these kind of cadences a lot in very climactic moments. They sound very much concerto-like, and in this particular part of the piece, he's clearly defining that he's gone to the key of 5, where he was supposed to go, and it's a very triumphant moment. And because of that, I really want students to hear the cadence. And what that means is that instead of going 1, 2, 3, 1, doing this, 1, 2, 3, 1. And you'll notice on the second one, before I made this video, I actually went out to eat, and one of my great vices in life is chips at a Mexican restaurant, which I can seriously put away. It's probable that when I weigh myself tomorrow, I will have gained a pound, and it will be well worth it because those chips were terrific. But think of the measure or the length of time in this, a little bit like that scenario. It's like it has the 3 counts plus an extra pound. It's just a little bit on the broad side. 1, 2, 3, 1. And the solution for that is hearing the lyricism of this descending fourth, of this B flat to the F. and not feeling like it has to get there right away. This is preemptive because you will be tempted to rush, and it's also a musical necessity because of the importance of that cadence. Let's try those things again, and the three things we're thinking about again: not letting the left hand slow down, so thinking of that big quarter note pulse, putting my brain on the left hand. Second, making sure I've got a full 3 counts in that left hand and not omitting the last note or two, very common problem. And then the third, making sure that I give a little bit of padding in that cadence so it really feels like I've arrived.